what they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. And it leads on who they might have been running for.
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together.
You can listen to and binge Jaunty Haunts right now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you podcast. Stay spooky, ghoul friends.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell you scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse wherever you stream podcasts. Just be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. An important note. Sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. I realize I might be in the minority, but one of my favorite things to do is shop inside a store rather than online. Whether I'm buying shoes, clothes, or dropping by the local Goodwill or a local hobby shop to find a horror DVD or two, I love going out and being part of the world around me, and it's something I do pretty much on autopilot. Today's story, though, has me thinking more carefully about clothes shopping. You know those clothing mannequins you sometimes find in a store? The ones that model an outfit or a specific clothing item? I can almost guarantee that you've likely never given the mannequin a second look. I mean, why would you? You're not at the store to see the mannequin. And even if it's wearing an outfit you like, you're still not paying much attention to it. Again, why would you? It's possible that mannequins are some of the most ignored aspects of a clothing store. They serve a purpose, and it's not to draw attention to themselves. But what if I told you that one of the most enduring and creepy urban legends involves a mannequin in Chihuahua, Mexico? It's a mannequin much like any other, standing behind a glass display at a local bridal shop. Except this mannequin, called La Pascualita, is different. Because many believe La Pascualita is hiding a dark and gruesome secret. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore the unsettling story of La Pascualita. Is the mannequin exactly that? Or is she something darker and more gruesome? I'll share the story. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. Chihuahua, Mexico sits approximately 4 hours south of Ciudad Juarez, in the northwestern part of the country. A major city, Chihuahua boasts a population of over 1 million people and is considered a major economic hub because of tourist hotspots like the Copper Canyon, Pancho Villa's Museum, and La Pascualita. Let's go on a journey together. On La Calle Victoria, there's a small, nearly 100-year-old bridal shop called La Popular. You're excited to visit because it offers the latest in wedding and bridal fashion. And La Pascualita. There, You'll find her dressed in a white bridal gown and positioned in the storefront window. At first glance, she looks like any other lifelike mannequin. And if you didn't know better, you might not think twice about her. That is, until you look closer and closer. And that's when you realize something feels strange. Because La Pascualita is more lifelike than she seems. In fact, she appears to be downright human. Her skin looks textured and hyper-realistic. Her nails are well manicured. And her hands, they seem to have veins running underneath the skin. And her legs look like they have slight varicose veins. Her eyes appear to reflect light naturally. And for a brief moment, it looks as though there's life behind them. And there's something about her posture. It doesn't seem rigid and stiff like the plastic mannequins you've seen before. It looks like she's naturally holding a pose. As you pull back in confusion and astonishment, you overhear two women whispering about the mannequin. They call her La Pascualita, or Little Pascuala. And you overhear something that makes your heart skip a beat. Excuse me, did you say what I think you said? The two women nod. And as your brain processes the new information, the strange features of the mannequin form a startling new revelation. La Pascualita might be the embalmed daughter of La Popular's original owner. The more you listen, the more you're bewildered. And there might be a bit of fear creeping in. You look at the mannequin, then back at the women. There's no way that's a real person, right? For the next few minutes, you sit enthralled as they explain the lore behind the mannequin. One woman says La Pascualita was a young woman who died tragically from a black widow spider bite a few days before her wedding. The other woman quickly chimes in and says she heard a different story. That the woman mysteriously died while preparing for her wedding. And some say she took her own life. Some suspected possible foul play, while others believed she may have died of a sudden illness. And as they talk, you realize the core of the story remains the same. The woman, whether she died from a venomous spider bite, a strange illness, or because of foul play, someone could not handle the grief associated with her death and had her embalmed and placed in the storefront. Suddenly, La Pascualita's wedding dress takes on an eerie significance, because while she may be adorned in modern fashion, it ultimately represents a wedding that, because of tragedy, never took place. Who embalmed her? The women exchange nervous glances, and they tell you the distraught mother contracted a master embalmer who, following the mother's guidance, considered La Pascualita his greatest work. She was then placed in the storefront. How long ago was this? The women's countenance changes while they consider your question. They're no longer looking at you, and are whispering between themselves. Finally, one of them looks up and says, "She died in 1930. The fascination with La Pascualita's lifelike appearance has inevitably led to rumors and dark and scary lore. It is said that employees of La Popular refuse to be alone with the mannequin, especially at night, when they believe she shifted or moved on her own. Former employees claimed La Pascualita would turn her head slightly, as if listening to the sounds and conversation around her. Nearly all believe La Pascualita's eyes followed them as they walked around the store. Others allege they would walk past the store after closing and initially see her standing in her usual spot. But then, just a few minutes later, and after doubling back, they noted she was in a different part of the store, sometimes facing out, and sometimes with her back to the storefront. One article stated, quote, "Her presence is rumored to have also unnerved some of the shop workers, with one claiming, 'Every time I go near Pascualita, my hands break out in a sweat.' Her hands are very realistic, and she even has varicose veins on her legs. I believe she's a real person." End quote. And perhaps most unsettling of all, a significant number of people have claimed to see La Pascualita breathing. I already mentioned the theory that La Pascualita was the work of a master embalmer, but while researching, I came across another theory. According to this version of the legend, quote, a visiting French magician became so entranced by the bridal mannequin that he would visit her window each night and bring her to life, dancing with her and bringing her around town before returning her to the storefront each morning. End quote. In this version of the legend, La Pascualita isn't an embalmed corpse, but instead, she was an inanimate object brought to life by a smitten magician. Let's consider the details before asking an important question. If La Pascualita is an embalmed corpse, she would be nearly 100 years old today. It seems impossible that she would have survived this long. But what if La Pascualita was really the embalmed corpse of the store owner's daughter? We'll consider this question right after this quick ad break.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
In considering the possibility that La Pascualita might be real, it's important to remember a few important details. According to one article, quote, the embalming process is a preservation technique used to temporarily delay decomposition and maintain the appearance of the deceased for viewing and funeral services. End quote. So to start, embalming a corpse only delays decomposition rather than stopping it entirely. And while decomposition is affected by various factors, embalming is never permanent. There's something else. The process of embalming, quote, involves draining bodily fluids and replacing them with preservative chemicals to slow decay. The process also includes restorative techniques, such as cosmetic enhancements, to give the body a more natural appearance for public viewings. End quote. This detail is critical because while some claim to have seen La Pascualita breathing or moving on her own, or turning her head slightly, the embalming process would have ensured that she was dead. The added element of Mexico's climate should not be overlooked either. One article stated, quote, to have an embalmed corpse on display in the window of a small, family-owned business day in and day out, exposed to the hot desert sun and human interaction, would take a toll on the corpse, and it definitely wouldn't stay so fresh after being on display for over 90-some years now. End quote. But here's something interesting. An embalmed corpse can be re-embalmed to extend preservation, though this process is costly and requires a significant amount of work. If La Pascualita is an embalmed corpse, she would have to have been re-embalmed several times and have required extensive work to maintain her lifelike appearance. You might be wondering, has anything like this ever been done before? Well, in 2011, Anatoly Maschine, a Russian historian, was arrested after authorities discovered the bodies of 29 girls in his home. He'd exhumed and mummified them with salt and baking soda. Then he dressed them up as life-size dolls, which he then situated throughout his home. The details of the case are morbid, and you can listen to the whole story in the Red Treehouse episode 88. But in creating his quote-unquote living dolls, Maschine applied makeup to their face, put wigs on their heads, and dressed them in bright clothing and dresses. And if that weren't gruesome enough, he placed music boxes in several of the corpses to, quote, bring them back to life, end quote. And get this, he did this over the course of 10 years, while living with his parents in their home. After his arrest, they claimed they were unaware of the extent of his actions, and believed he simply had a strange hobby. What makes La Pascualita fascinating, at least in part, is the lack of verifiable information regarding Well, all of it. A lack of historical records regarding La Popular's original owners cast doubt on the claims of embalming, and there's no record of a woman having died by a spider bite, or any other way, at the time that she would have been embalmed. Yet despite this, the legend persists. Cynics and skeptics point to this as simply being good business. What better way to bring in potential customers and tourists than to give them a glimpse of La Pascualita? And more than that, they point to the incredibly difficult reality of trying to preserve a body for over 90 years. One article stated, quote, "For some reason, people tend to think that it's easier to preserve a body than it actually is. Bodies really go bad pretty fast, unless you take some rather heroic measures to keep them from doing so. Both Lenin and Mao have basically been rendered to a state much like rubber, and are kept under extraordinarily monitored conditions. Most of the stuff that undertakers do is with the aim of making a corpse look good until burial. Anything over a couple weeks, and things start going very, very bad." End quote. For others, though, seeing is believing. And no matter what the science says, nothing beats the seeing eye test of observing La Pascualita up close and personal. I'll confess, of all the urban legends I've heard over the years, and as much of a believer as I am in the supernatural, I just have a hard time believing La Pascualita is an embalmed corpse. Don't get me wrong, the folklore is tragic and makes for a great setup, but the rest of it falls apart beyond that. Recent pictures show La Pascualita in pristine condition, and even if her features appear lifelike, it seems to be the work of a master craftsman rather than a master embalmer. At the same time, though, the story is compelling. And like other urban legends, what La Pascualita represents, in this case, grief, sadness, and enduring love, may be longer lasting than a decomposing corpse being perpetually embalmed. In her story, we find the very human, very relatable tale of love, care, death, grief, and a desire to hold on as long as we can, knowing that change means things will never be the same again. And even though I think La Pascualita is just a mannequin, her story resonates with me differently. Because having lost my dad just over 2 years ago, and the fact that this show is dedicated to him, I understand what it's like to love someone, lose them, miss them, grieve over them, and want to keep some part of them alive. So while she may just be a mannequin, an inanimate object, her story serves as a reminder that life is fragile and love lasts far longer than our heartbeat. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with these lingering questions. Is it possible, however unlikely, that La Pascualita is in fact a near century-old embalmed corpse? I've shared the story. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.
you